Welcome back to another episode of Sporting Max on 1116 SEN, where today I'm joined by Sydney Kings star, Shaun Bruce. Welcome to the show, Shaun. It's an absolute honour to have you on live from Sydney. How you going at the moment?
Really good, Max. Thanks for the intro. You're very generous with calling me a star, but yeah, thanks for having me on your show.
Oh, I've watched you play for the last couple of years at the Kings and, under Gaze and Will Weaver and Chase Buford and things like that. And especially in these last 2 years I've been doing the podcast, I've been watching you guys, and then I think someone asked me a couple of weeks ago if you could get someone from the Sydney Kings. This was before I knew I was going to get you on. It's like, who would you get? And I was like, oh, Shaun Bruce. Like, no question. Because I love your intensity at both ends of the floor.
Thanks, mate. I really appreciate it. I've got a lot of great teammates, so for you to pick me, it means a lot.
Shaun, I'd like to start off with sort of what was your childhood like and what was growing up like for you?
Yeah, so I grew up down the road from you in Horsham in country Victoria. Yeah, so I lived a pretty quiet life there, and a lot of my life revolved around sport, whether it was obviously basketball was involved, but had a go at everything. Aussie rules, cricket. Yeah, there's not a whole lot to do down in Horsham, but to play sport with your mates is a big thing. So did a lot of that. And then as I got older, I guess decided basketball was what I was most passionate about. I really love footy as well, but decided to go down the path of basketball. My older brothers were both playing basketball, and I guess my oldest brother Aaron was playing, and he moved on to go to the AIS and go to college and stuff like that. So seeing him do those things really inspired me to choose basketball and to see what I could do with it.
So that point in time where you got to make a decision between, football, cricket or basketball, how does that happen for you? Obviously, not just with the passion, or was it like you have to choose one sport? Because with other sports guys and basketballs or footballs and things like that, they get to a point in time where you just have to choose one sport and that's your kind of thing,
Yeah, for me, I think I just loved basketball more, to tell you the truth. Like, I really like playing footy, and a place like Horsham, footy is a lot more popular, being a country town, and all my mates were doing that. But I was playing footy at the time and probably wasn't loving the wet weather of what the country Victoria gives you in the winter time. So chose to play more basketball, but I still love my footy and always kind of think what could have happened if I had gone down that road or not. But have a big love for both sports. I think they're both great.
Now, I want to know if this is correct, but I believe you played Big V Division 2 as a 15-year-old. What was this like for you? You're competing against men as a 15-year-old.
Yeah, so I did that, and that was just purely because Horsham had a team in that league, and that was we didn't really have enough kids playing or numbers to really field teams in all the age groups, so they just always had an open age team in the Big V, so I got to play in that. But I thought that was great for me. I like you said, got to play against grown-ups at a young age, and I think by doing that you just learn so much more because you're playing against guys with so much more experience. That was really good for me. But I think off the court as well, I think I just got used to being around older people, and I was able to mature probably a little bit quicker than other kids that just play with their own age group all the time and are around people of similar age.
So how did an opportunity with the Ballarat Miners come about in, I think it was 2010?
Yeah, so after I guess I finished high school in Horsham and playing Big V and that kind of stuff, I had played junior representative stuff for Vic Country, and at under 18s I played against Vic Metro, who were coached by Guy Malloy, and at the time he was coaching with the South Dragons and doing a bit with the state teams, and then South Dragons folded and he moved to Ballarat, and I was really lucky just to have him as a coach, and I just played at under 18 championships against him, so he was familiar with me, and he knew kind of Horsham was just down the road, so we got into talking, and it was just something to begin with. I was going there just to go there for 6 months and try to go to college, but I enjoyed it so much there and playing with him that I stayed around and ended up spending 3 or 4 years with him.
Wow. We're going to go to a quick break here and we'll continue with Shaun on the other side. Back up again. So welcome back from the ad break, Shaun. Just coming off that Ballarat Miners thing, then you went on to win the Siebel East Golden Hands Award in 2011. What did that mean to you to be recognised as an award winner, I guess, in the league, and someone who's got the potential to go a long way in basketball?
Yeah, so that award for me was, obviously big at the time, but I guess it come about was because playing under Guy, he kind of told me or set things out to me, and we made a plan that if I'm going to make the NBL, I've got to be able to set up my teammates and run a team really well, and I've got to be able to play defense. So to win that award, I think it's your assists and steals minus your turnovers. So it kind of shows how well you are at running your team, and how good you are defensively. So that award, I guess, was just a bit of a cherry on top to that, and really showed, I guess, the people at the next level that's kind of what I did. So it was a bit of a job application for me, because I knew going to the NBL level, I wasn't going to be somebody that walked in and scored 20 points or be asked to score 30 points or anything like that. It was really about doing the little things and being able to set up my teammates, run a team, and defend at a high level.
So then what was that like to, you've got the focus of both ends of the floor. Some players are more offensively or defensively focused. Was there ever a point in your career or in the Siebel where you wanted to focus on more so offense or more so defense rather than your whole game collectively?
Yeah, I guess it's been something I've always focused on, and I've prided myself on being pretty well-rounded. But I think it was after, I got to the NBL level and then went and played for different state teams after that time in Ballarat, where they probably asked me to be more of a scorer and do some more things. But up until that point, I was really just focused on whatever needed to be done. But it wasn't until kind of later on playing in Mackay, and now I went to Rockhampton as well, and Logan, they've kind of asked me to be a bit more of a scorer. So obviously always prided myself on those other areas, but I guess getting older and a bit more mature, I had to focus on other things as well.
So as you were sort of coming in to getting a spot with the Cairns Taipans in the NBL, you had a 3-day training stint with Melbourne Tigers. What did you sort of learn or get most out of that experience?
Yeah, I guess that was a pretty big wake-up call and an eye-opener for me, I guess. They, at the time, they just had a lot of injuries, so they're calling guys in to come in and train and whatnot. And I came down and spent kind of a week with them, and it just, like I said, an eye-opener. It showed me how big of a jump it is for that next level, just physically and how skilled they were. So it was perfect for me at that time, because I was then going back into another Siebel season, so I could really take that little experience and put it into my game back at the Siebel level, and really motivated me to really train a bit harder, and I knew I had a lot to learn.
So then when you came into the Cairns Taipans for the 2013-2014 season as a development player, how did you find sort of coming into the team, in a different state away from home?
Yeah, I remember just the biggest thing was I was really excited. I was, as a kid, I always said once I chose I wanted to, well, before I even really said I wanted to go down the path of being a basketball, I always had a goal to play in the NBL. So I was really excited, but similar thing to my experience that I just said with the little training stint with Melbourne, like my first couple of months there were really hard. I felt like, I just had to learn on the fly, but I also, got my butt kicked a lot at training. Didn't feel like I was very good, and I really had to learn a lot. So, it was an exciting experience, but a really big learning experience when I was, in those first few months being a development player. But for me, it was, living out a dream. So I was really, really excited.
So then coming into that, I guess, sort of 14-15 season, you've made the grand final and as minor premiers, but not winning that championship. Can you take me through the series and the heartbreak of not quite getting to where you want to go and win the championship?
Yeah, so for starters, that season was unbelievable. Like going into it at like similar to the Cairns Taipans now, I guess they're
Yeah.
never predicted to really win, or they're up against the bigger cities in Sydney and Melbourne and stuff. So we went into that season, no one was predicting us to do
Yeah.
anything, and we kind of turned a lot of heads. And I think our record at the end of that season set some records at the time. But yeah, that series, obviously super disappointing. Cairns had just been to a grand final kind of 2 or 3 years before, so the excitement around a small town or a small regional city like Cairns was unbelievable. So to be a part of that was really cool. But you could feel that city was like begging for a championship to come there.
Yeah.
Like they're up against these big names. We're playing the Breakers, who had won so many titles before us, and yeah, there was excitement, and yeah, in the end, we obviously didn't get it done. We got beat on a game-winning shot, which was a tough way to go out. But at the same time, I think it was a great learning experience for me, just not to take that moment for granted, because it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I got back to that same situation with the Kings. So they don't come around too often, those opportunities, and that was a big learning curve for me.
So how do you get past that and move, I guess, into the next season?
Yeah, it was tough. I think the thing in that off season was we wanted to return everyone again, and a place like Cairns, we had two really good imports, Scotty Wilbekin and Torrey Craig at the time.
Yeah.
That they were doing absolutely everything to return those guys, but because they'd kind of come out and done so well, they're obviously getting offers from all around the world. That both those guys are going on to do huge things now. But there was a moment in time they were going to come back and we were all going to try to do it again, but that didn't happen. We brought some other guys in, and still great players, but the focus was like, yeah, let's run it back and have another crack again. But we couldn't quite bring everyone back, unfortunately. And then yeah, we just didn't quite get there the next season.
What was that like to play with someone who's now got NBA experience like Torrey Craig?
Yeah, it was really cool. I think the coolest part of about Torrey and what he was like was he never had his eyes set on the NBA. I felt like he may have in his own life or talking to his own people, but to us, he was just so grateful to be in Cairns and be here in Australia. And he really just lived in the moment of there and did really well, and then just kept moving forward in his career. It wasn't something where he was looking too far ahead that he wanted to be back in the States or back in the NBA. So that was the biggest part I took away from playing with Torrey, that yeah, he just lived in the moment and did really well with that.
I want to talk about sort of briefly, now leading up to Christmas in 2015, you became, I guess, a sort of more dominant player in the team. You know, you guys had players out. Then you had four games with 10 or more points. How did that help you, I guess, to take the lead and become a leader and improve?
Yeah, I think that, like, obviously the year before we had that grand final year, so I was playing a role in that team, and I was getting more and more confident. But that little stretch where, like, our lead guard Markel Starks got injured, so really I was thrown in the deep end. That there's no other choice but to play me, and I had to really either step up and play better and take on those more minutes and more opportunities, or yeah, kind of a sink or swim situation. And I was lucky to play well and be ready to go. But I think I was lucky, like my coach at the time, Fernie, was really good with preparing us, and he always kind of harped on us that you never know when your next opportunity is going to come or when you got to stand up for more. So I think I worked pretty hard and I was ready for that moment, and that was the biggest thing.
So then why did you decide, I guess, to go to Brisbane and play there? Was, you know, sort of to gain your confidence a bit or some more minutes, or?
Yeah, that decision for me, it was really tough because I obviously had just kind of kept getting better and better in Cairns, and really loved playing for Fernie. So the decision for me, the biggest part about it was just being able to explore options in the off season. At that time when you played in Cairns, it was either play NBL 1 North with the Marlins, or you kind of just had to stay around and train. And at that time, yeah, I kind of wanted to explore other options during the off season. I really love playing for the Taipans and really wanted to stay and play for them, but not having that ability to return home to Victoria or go on and plan for other clubs at that level was something that I wanted to do. So I had to make the move, and obviously at the time it was an exciting opportunity with the Bullets to start fresh with a new club. And at the time the national coach was there and they were building a good roster. So it was an exciting opportunity that aligned with the other things I had going on.
What was it like to play under someone like Andre Mieles?
Yeah, it was good. It was a learning experience for me. Obviously you did things differently to what my previous coaches did, and I probably didn't realize it at the time, but stepping away now from that environment, I feel like I learned a lot playing under him. Yeah, there's no question that the success the Boomers are having is because of what Andre did as a coach, kind of leading up to this last Olympics. So yeah, it's a privilege to play for a coach like that and learn from him.
You guys went overseas to America for the NBL Cross NBA games, where you guys versus the Phoenix Suns. What was it like to verse NBA guys and experience that American atmosphere?
Yeah, it was something that I never thought I'd ever possibly do, to be honest. It was like I grew up playing NBA Live on the PlayStations and the video games and stuff, and that's as close as I'd get. But yeah, and going and doing it, that's what it felt like to me. Like it was such a blur. And when I was out there and they have the show going on at an NBA game, it's something different. But once the actual game got started and the ball got thrown up, it felt like another game. But in terms of traveling over there first class and doing things that I guess NBA players do regularly was just, it was kind of out of this world for me.
Now, in the next few years, I guess you played for the Wellington Saints in the NZNBL and in Malaysia. How do you find playing overseas, and do you notice a difference between, when you're overseas compared to, say, when you're in Cairns playing, in a state?
Yeah, so I guess those little stints that I had overseas, although they're close to home, yeah, it was just a good experience for me. I think the basketball was what it was, but just seeing different places and different cultures and stuff, I thought was, a great experience for me. Really enjoyed my time with both those teams. But I think the biggest thing is just experience and getting out of my comfort zone a little bit, and not just playing state league in the off season and going experiencing something else.
So with the Wellington Saints, I believe you got to the grand final but couldn't win that championship once again. What's that like to experience that heartbreak? You experience that, I guess, sort of 3 times over your career where you can't get the championship.
Yeah, no, it's tough. It doesn't get any easier. Yeah, I was lucky probably back, you mentioned it before, the Big V days. I won some championships with Horsham that I'm still hanging on to.
Yeah.
But no, obviously it's tough. Had a really good team in Wellington, and it was kind of out of us and Southland, who we lost to. We both had 2 really strong teams, and that game again, it comes down to the last shot on the buzzer kind of thing. Just close games, it could go either way. So I guess appreciate getting there and the moments, but obviously no, only one team can win. So we get back on the horse and get back to work and try to do it again soon.
So then playing with the Adelaide 36ers for a couple of games stint as a replacement player for Ramon Moore. How do you find a situation where you come into a team, have to adjust to their play and their style of plays and things like that, and knowing that you're only there for a few games?
Yeah, so it's that's an interesting situation to be in for sure, and it's the only time I've had to do it. But I was pretty lucky that Joey Wright, the coach there, plays a pretty free flowing style, and he doesn't. His system really trusts players to make reads and not be bogged down in structures and things like that. Although he does have structure, he really just trusts you to go be a player. So that itself helped. But in terms of his structures and stuff like that, I think I'm pretty lucky. I watch most games in the NBL. When I was playing, I'd obviously played against Joey's teams a lot, so I understood a lot of the concepts he did before going in there. So that made things easier a little bit. And then the last thing was just I had a couple of mates on that team. Nathan Sobey's one of my closer friends, and he was playing for the 36ers at the time. So those kind of three things made the transition a bit easier. But yeah, it is a tough situation. You're going into a team that's for me, they were 3/4 through the season, and their last 6 or 7 games depended if they made playoffs. So when you go in, you don't want to mess it up. You want to just contribute positively as much as you can, and that's all I try to really do, and that's what I had on my mind.
So how did the opportunity of going and playing alongside Kevin Lish at the Sydney Kings come about?
Yeah, so that kind of come obviously after that stint in Adelaide. I finished the season as an injury replacement, and yeah, did okay. I didn't set the world on fire there by any means, but it just so happened Sydney had a position available that in their backcourt. They obviously had already signed Casper, had Kevin, so
Yeah.
there wasn't supposed to be too much opportunity there, but they just needed some solid players that they could bring off the bench, and I guess they saw that I could do that. Obviously, as that season went on, and once I got there, Kev went down with an injury, and I really went from no expectation to then having expectations to play a lot more and contribute a lot more. So I was really lucky with that situation and the opportunities that arose there, even if it meant that my mate Kev went down with an injury and we didn't have him playing as much.
Now, that grand final series against the Perth Wildcats in 2020 was a tough one because I think it was 2-1. There was maybe a game or so left, or 2 games or something like that left in the series, and it was the start of COVID, so it was a heavily COVID affected series. What's your perspective on that series, and what was that time like? Were you guys in bubbles or trying to stay safe and things like that?
Yeah, so it was at like you said, the really beginning of COVID, and that was the biggest thing is that we had international players, we had international coaches, and with what was going on around the world, like countries were shutting down and borders were shutting and stuff like that. So I just remember at the time there was a lot of stress from those guys that in 2 weeks when this series finishes, they may not be able to get home to see loved ones. Like we don't even know health wise whether guys can go see families after this or not, or if contracting the virus, what would happen. So there was so much uncertainty and stress around it. And that was, I just remember it being stressful. But I guess in terms of the series, it was great to be a part of. I think it was 2 high level teams playing and going through that a series, making adjustments. Like Perth come and beat us game 1, and we make some adjustments and beat them game 2 over there, and they come back and do the same again. So I'd like to say that we could have kept making adjustments and maybe beat them out in the 5th game, but obviously it got shut down, and credit to them, they were up 2-1, and what happened from that has happened now. But I think just being a part of it, it was super high level and something that I'm grateful that I've got to experience and play on that level.
We'll quickly go to another short break, and we'll be back here in a second with Shaun Bruce. Welcome back from the break, Shaun. I want to get into sort of NBL 22. How do you prepare for a game in this season? There's a lot of uncertainties. Like you've mentioned before, schedules can be postponed or a different opposition. We've seen that multiple times throughout NBL 22 already. How do you get yourself prepared for a game this year?
Yeah, no, it's tough so far. I think there was 1 week over the New Year period. We prepared for kind of 3 different teams in the 1 week. We started off, we're going to go play Illawarra, and then it was Cairns and Tassie. So it was day to day. We're walking into training, not knowing who we played that weekend. So for us players, we kind of spend the whole week preparing for a team and then go play them. So we've had to adjust to that now and really just, take it as it comes. We know we've got this team that's scheduled now, but something could change. So I guess we're just got to be adaptable as it comes. And a lot of it comes down to then just focusing on sharpening what we can do and what we can control within our team, and probably not worrying as much about the opposition until it's for certain we're going to play them. And sometimes that can be the day of the game or a day before.
So I went to the NBL Blitz this year. It was a great series. What's it like to, play with someone, an explosive center and scorer and defensive player like Jarrell Martin?
Yeah, no, it's great. I love playing with Rel. He's obviously a great player that you guys see, but he's a great teammate as well, and someone we really enjoy being around. But yeah, there's obviously a lot that he can do on the basketball court that helps us be successful, and we really appreciate Rel as a teammate and player. And yeah, some of the stuff he's doing this season, the dunks and stuff he's having, it's hard to believe that someone that big doing the stuff he's doing. It's cool to see.
What's it like having a new head coach, Chase Buford, in the house this season, especially Will Weaver's gone. He's gone to the NBA at the Houston Rockets, and then you've had Adam Ford in, who was a fantastic coach to get you through the rest of NBL 21. Now Chase Buford comes in, won a championship with the Milwaukee Bucks, brings that championship mindset and mentality and experience across to the Sydney Kings. What's the first, few months of the season and prior to the season in training and things like that with him been like?
Yeah, well, I guess going back, like adjusting to a new coach is something that we've got used to a little bit there. As you mentioned, we've had 3 coaches now, but for Chase, I think just his energy that he brings daily and the energy he wants us to play with is at a really high level. And he brings that every day as a coach, and he's in drills flying around and playing. And you'd think he was playing some weeks, how much he's in practice and he's handling the ball and guarding us, but he's motivating us. And that's a big thing with how he coaches is, getting his hands dirty. And he motivates us a lot, but the energy that he brings and the energy he wants us to play with is what stood out for me.
Now, you've versed the Illawarra Hawks a couple of times in the rivalry this year. It's the rivalry everyone loves. There's two rivalries in the NBL: Southeast Melbourne Phoenix and Melbourne United, and then the Sydney Kings and Illawarra Hawks. I reckon the Sydney Kings and Illawarra Hawks rivalry at the moment is probably the top one in Australia. What's the atmosphere and energy like on court when those kind of games take place, and then what we've seen over the last few games between you two teams?
Yeah, no, there's obviously a bit of feeling in those games. I think what makes it cool is that obviously Wollongong's only an hour and a half away from Sydney, so our fans can get down there, and vice versa. Their fans get up the freeway and come and watch them play at Kudos. So that's a cool part of it, that you kind of in an environment, you might be in your home environment, but they got fans in there, and you don't get that very much around the NBL because of the distance between teams.
Yeah.
You go play in Perth and you might have 5 or 10 Kings fans, where if you go play in Illawarra, can be 200, 300 Kings fans down there. So it's kind of fun going into each other's environments and having that atmosphere and having that support. But in terms of playing, I think, it's really, I guess, there's a lot goes into it in terms of pumping it up in the media and stuff. But when we're out there and playing, it's just another game that we want to win, and that both teams are just treating like another game, I think. But the lead up and the atmosphere the fans brings definitely different.
So what are your expectations for finishing this season? Are you guys planning to make top 2 finals or try and make it to the grand final and win the championship?
Yeah, no, there's no question we want to win a championship. I think obviously to do that, you got to qualify for the finals, and just getting that top 4 first. I think anything can happen from there. But I think if when you're playing for the Sydney Kings, it's championships or nothing kind of thing. It's the expectation with playing here, and all us players know that, and that's what we're thriving for. And obviously in this early part of the season, had a lot happen. We've had some imports go down with injuries, and we'll have one getting replaced now that's got a long-term injury. So yet to get settled a little bit, but I think throughout as the season goes on, and how we finish the season will be a lot different to how we're kind of traveling right now.
We're going to have a quick break and get back to Shaun Bruce on the other side. Back with Shaun Bruce. Shaun, I want to know what playing in leagues like the NBL One and the Seabull and QBL, like you mentioned, Rockhampton and Logan Thunder and with the Mackay Meteors, what has those experiences, I guess, over your career done for you?
Yeah, it's the big part of it is you get to go down there and kind of push the boundaries of who you are as a player, because at this level, I think a lot of us guys are playing a role and have to do that to kind of fit into the team we're playing with at the NBL level, where the expectations for us when we go down to that level is obviously to kind of run the team or be a bigger player than what we may be here in terms of our production and how much we're playing and stuff. So for me, I've got to work on a lot going down to that level. Like I mentioned, certain teams have asked me to score a hell of a lot more than I've been asked to at the NBL level. So I've got to go down there and experience playing that kind of role. But then at the end of the day too, it gives us something to kind of be involved with 12 months of the year. So we get to go play in that league and stay in shape and come back to our NBL teams in good shape and ready to go.
So what was it like this year or this season playing with the Logan Thunder in the NBL One North?
Yeah, it was really good. Played with one of my good mates, Mitch Young. He's an ex-NBL player, and also had Jeremy Kendall playing, who was an ex-NBL guy. So I had a lot of talent, a lot of experience, and the team did really well. Finished the regular season on top, and unfortunately went down in a knockout semi. Come across a good team from Cairns who had a really good night and beat us on our home floor, which was a bummer. But as a whole, the season was a lot of fun, just playing with those guys and being a part of a team that was really talented.
So how do you go about coming up against someone like Matthew Dellavedova this season? How do you try and score on him? How do you try and defend him? I mean, both of you guys are kind of alike. You know, you've both got that intensity at both ends of the floor. So how do you go about trying to stop him?
Yeah, it's funny that, like, the thing with Delly, I think what he does so well is get everyone else involved. So you kind of, when you're playing against Delly, although he can definitely score, and he's shown that with the game he's just recently had against Illawarra and different times, but I think his biggest impact's the way he makes others around him better. So you're kind of trying to limit that and how he sees the floor, kind of mix it up with him. He can find guys, he can set screens, he can do a lot that really impacts the game, and that's what makes Delly so good. He does a lot of things that go unnoticed, and he's somebody that, like you said, we kind of play the game similar, and I've looked up to him. Although we're similar age, he's obviously done things at a really high level overseas, and I think he's done a great job, and I think he adds a lot of value, not only to United but any team that he's played for.
Shaun, what would be your best advice to anyone who wants to become a professional basketballer and be successful and make the NBL like yourself?
I think that there's a lot, but I think the biggest thing is to not take no for an answer. If you might find a coach that doesn't maybe like how you play, or a team you don't get selected on, but don't let that determine how you go about the next thing. And maybe it's sometimes finding a coach that kind of suits your game style or how you play, or just trying again on another team, or trying again. Like, there's always, if it's something that you really want to do, you just got to keep working and keep persistent, and there'll always be a chance for a guy that hangs in there and keeps working hard.
Thanks, Shaun, for coming on today and putting aside 40 minutes or 50 minutes or so of your time to come in and have a chat. It's been a pleasure and an honor, and best of luck for the rest of the season.
No worries, man. Thanks a lot. I know you've had some big names on the show, so it's a privilege for me to be on here, mate. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Shaun. Stay tuned, everyone, next week for some more Sporting Max.